Hi everybody, guess what we're doing today? Drinking coffee. That's good stuff. Gotta have one. Just chilling out with my Flames mug here in the garage. It's not the reason why I'm out here. Well, it is, but it isn't. But it is. We gotta change a fuel line on this, my 2004 Subaru Forester 2-liter turbo intercooled. You have to change this fuel line. If you've imported a vehicle within the last less than a year into a snow belt climate where temperatures are going to be dropping below like minus 15, minus 20 degrees Celsius, let's say minus 10, minus 15, you need to replace this fuel line. I've seen and I've heard a lot of horror stories on this thing leaking as the temperature drops off. It's only a 3-inch line. It's high pressure fuel line that you need to replace, 3 or 4 inches long. We're going to point it out to you right now on this engine. Now we had the temperature dropped down to about minus 12 and I just got a whiff of gasoline vapor and I was like, what is that? Where did that come from? What's going on? Our son has his WRX. They've also got, his fiance's also got a Forester as well. Hers is an 03, this is an 04. Same engine, the EJ, I don't even know. Yeah, you know what it is. EJ20, right there, right there. Real fast, right there. You know what it is. Anyway, you've got to change this fuel line. It will leak. You go on forums, go do a bunch of reading, go do all that kind of stuff. You'll see that this thing leaks. We're going to point it out to you right now. Now, if you take a look down inside here, you can see where my screwdriver is at. That's the upper clamp right there. And then the lower clamp down there. That little piece of fuel line is notorious for leaking over time. Now again, it's a high pressure fuel line. I've got a high pressure fuel line. I got about a foot length of it. Got way too much, but it's rated at 225 PSI. Now that little line there is going to be a fun one to change out. Why? Because you can't get your hand in there, number one. Number two, you got to remove the air conditioning compressor off to the side. Let's just point the camera down here and we'll show you. Air conditioning compressor, obviously the cover here, you got to get the belts off. Air conditioning compressor off to the side. Alternator, I believe, has to come out of the way as well. I'm going to double check on that as I move along here. They're both bolted together, so hopefully I can just move this off to the side. I hope. Lift it up somehow, move it. I haven't done one of these, but we're going to figure it out real quick, I guess. In order to get access into that area, like right now, if I try to put my hand in there, yeah, like I can't. I just can't. So yeah, that's our first step. Now, this fuel line, that rubber fuel line, you can see this line right here. Hold on, I'm touching with the screwdriver. That one right there. That is part of it. Comes up, and of course it comes right into there. But it's clamped here, and it goes to your fuel injector underneath here, underneath this metal bracket, and you cannot move the line. The upper part of the line, which is way underneath in there, comes across and goes underneath the intake here. Now it's on a bracket right there. And from what I've read and from what I've heard and from what our son has told us is that cannot be bent or moved or anything like that. It's not a flexible line. You're just gonna have to wing it and get in there. So this is the first step, and it doesn't look like it's gonna be easy. And of course, the one clamp is turned in the opposite direction, so obviously it's installed from the factory like that. Am I looking forward to this job? Not really, but you know what? It's okay. Look at some of my past videos on some of the other jobs I've worked on and complained about. Just get it done, right? So we're gonna try to get along with this right quick here. Let's get going. So here we go. We're gonna have some fun. Follow me. Okay, covers out of the way. 2 10mm bolts. You're gonna be undoing the alternator here, right here. This is your adjustment for this belt. We're gonna get this belt off, obviously, and then we're gonna get the air conditioning belt off here. And as you can see down there, there is, if I can get my hand down in there, which I can, right there. You got to loosen this nut here. It looks like a 10 millimeter as well. And then use that bolt. Let me see if I can spin my light a little bit so you get better light. You're going to use that bolt right there to loosen off the tensioner for the alternator belt and remove that as well. Okay, let's get going. Okay, you've got a 12 millimeter bolt here, 12 millimeter bolt here, 12 millimeter bolt here. Loosen this one off, and of course your alternator and your belt. Then use this. This is your adjusting bolt to adjust the tension on your belt, obviously. So there we go. So you can loosen this off. Look at that by hand. I'm even doing it now. Alternator drops, pop the belt off. There we go. I'm not disconnecting my battery just yet. I'm just going to leave it on. Because this obviously is a main. You're going over to your electronics. There we go. Got the belt up while I'm still talking here. Okay, so next one. I'm going to take this one out. Moving along here. This one here. And I'm going to undo this clamp for the wiring connector. And I'm going to spin the alternator right out of the way. Oops. How's my light there? I'm going to take the alternator and spin it, like I said, right out of the way because this wire loom has to go with it. This whole wire harness here. So let's get that done. Okay, this bracket that I'm holding with my magnetic retriever is on the back of your alternator. So when you're removing, obviously, that bolt right there, the one that connects your alternator to your AC compressor, this bracket's on the back side, and it can drop down there. So you'll be able to get it, hopefully, if once your alternator's out of the way. But I just used this real quickly, grabbed it, got her pulled up. So let's get the alternator out of the way. Okay, alternator is out of the way. Undo your air conditioning connector line right here. And I just carefully placed it up over, out of the way, up there. Now, this looks like it's going to be a fun job. And I broke the little clip because it's cold and I went to go grab it and I popped it right off. So I'm going to have to somehow repair that right there afterwards. Damn it. I cracked it. My fault. Wire one, this one opened up nicely, but the other one, no. Well, you can see, definitely got some room in here. Hey, look at that. Look at that. Got the stamp right there. Look at that. So, 1, 2, oh boy. Obviously the belt, and obviously another bolt right down there. And should be able to pull the compressor ahead towards the radiator, because you're not going to have much room, much flex with these lines. You're going to have to be really careful with them. Definitely don't want to damage them at all. So, but it sure opens up the engine quite a bit once you move these two things out of the way. So let's also take a look. Is there any damages, oil leaks, mice getting in here? Check your wire looms, your hoses. I don't see anything, so that's a good thing. Let's get going. Okay, there's another bolt right here. There's 3 bolts for the air conditioning compressor you got to get out. That being one of them. The other one being right there. We'll get onto that one right now. And this compressor's never been off since factory. So let me get the camera out of here real quick. So these bolts were in there pretty darn tight. Hopefully my camera's working. That's 2. Third one right down there. That's the one right down there. There we go. Let's get these 3 out and move the compressor out of the way. Okay, here we go. Air conditioning compressor's out of the way. Well, actually, it wasn't too bad. 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts. That's it. Nice and easy. Just move the compressor out of the way. As you can see, it's got some flex in the lines. You'll be able to just kind of prop it up on top of the intake manifold. Alternators out of the way, of course. Belts and my extra glove and whatever. Nice and clean inside here. Well, when I say clean, there's no oil leaks. Take a look at the block head. There's a head gasket right there. Coolant line here runs underneath. Not sure where it goes down below, possibly from the pump, possibly. Intake manifold, everything's dry, and that's the fuel line that we want to change out. I'm gonna just grab a pair of pliers and spin this thing, I guess, because this is obviously installed from the factory. And then this one will be easy, and then probably just cut the line straight down and pop it off. To get it back on though, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult because these are fixed lines. This line here, don't kink the lines. That line there is bolted. There's your bracket right there, and it goes to your fuel injector all the way, which is up underneath here. And then it goes this way along. I'm guessing it goes to the other fuel, or the injectors on the other side there as well too. So let's get going. Let's get this spun around and get that one off real quick. Okay, you can see that all I've done is used a pair of needle nose pliers, and I've spun this line around. So these right from factory have never been touched before. So they've loosened off a little bit. So this one here was actually quite loose. So now I'm thinking, geez, do I even change the fuel line out? But I've gotten it this far, and guess what? I am going to change it out. I'm just gonna see if I can push it with my screwdriver. So look at that, pushing it with my screwdriver. So you can see that it is loose, but I am going to I'm going to change it. You know what? You're here. You got 90% of it apart. Get it changed out. Let's get going. Okay, clamps are loosened off, and if your line is stuck, just grab a pair of pliers and just give it a little twist. You can see that it's moving. Now, I don't know how much fuel is going to leak out of here. I mean, obviously the vehicle's not on, but the system does have a prime in it. But you can see a little bit of fluid, a little bit of gasoline already is poured out. So probably just from the line, just from the upper line, not this upper line, but that upper line there. So we'll just pop this off here. Now this is 5/16 line, okay? Make sure you have high pressure fuel line. Don't use just regular fuel line for your carbureted vehicle. That is not gonna cut it. So let's get going. Okay, there we go. We got the fuel line off, and as you can see, it does continually drip for a little bit. Just whatever's in the lines here that's coming from the fuel injectors. So that's it. There we go. I basically cut it and then pulled it off. Now I'm gonna put the new one back on, and that's fine. It's actually not that bad. So again, be careful not to kink the lines when you're putting the new fuel line on. Make sure you're using new clamps as well. Don't reuse your old ones. And then wash this area down here as well. Get rid of the gasoline, as you can see, because there is a bit of a puddle right there. Again, just from the lines. So, okay, put a rag down, just to paper towel cloth, just to soak up the gasoline that spills out of the line. Don't forget your clamps. Put them on, right? Line slips on. I loosened this bolt off here just a little bit to see if I had any kind of room, little bit of movement maybe, not a lot. But as you can see, the next part is to get this attached up into that. So push the line all the way on. Again, make sure new clamps, make sure you're using new clamps. Careful of the coolant line here as well. And let's get going. So. Okay. Let's get going. Fuel line is on. Just put the clamps on here real quickly. A little tip, because you're gonna have to pull that line up, and I mean, it's tough. It's not easy. Use a piece of an old rag. I'm using my pliers, and I'm basically grabbing the line, putting this around the hose, and then I'm grabbing the pliers and I'm working it that way. Put a couple of marks on the hose, but definitely nothing that's gonna cut the line, that's for sure. So this rag, this little bit of rag, is acting as just an insulator around the hose there as well. So there we go. We've got the line on. Not that bad. We're gonna get the clamps on right now, tighten them up, and then put this baby back together. Let's get going. GoPro, stop recording. Okay, there we go. Fuel line is on. Clamps are up tight. Everything looks good. Got them both facing the same way. And they'll be accessible if I do need to make a small adjustment here later on, even with the air conditioning compressor in the way. I should be able to get a long extension down inside there. So just a quick tip here for you. When you're installing the line, obviously clamps go on. I loosened off that bolt to give me just a little bit of movement in the line here. Grab the fuel line if you're going to use a pair of pliers and use a small piece of cloth. Use a small piece of cloth, kind of like that. Give me a second here. There we go. Use a small piece of cloth like this, wrap it around the fuel line, and then use your pliers and you can move the line up without damaging the line. So use this as your insulator between the fuel line and your set of pliers. I don't have a smooth set of pliers or kind of grips or anything to use. And there we go. Fuel line is in. Now what do we got to do? Just put this baby back together, which is real easy. Tighten that one up first. Air conditioning compressor goes back in. That's it. Here we go. We'll get her back together. Okay, look at that. We've got it all back together. Not bad at all. Really thought this was going to be a little bit worse than it was. Just like the Jeep Liberty radiator I did, which was a little more painful than this. This was actually not too bad. Now take a look. You can see the clamps. I've got access to them if I do need to make an adjustment. There's one. And right down there is the other one. I know it's a little tough to see with everything in the way, but I can see it clearly. Good. Double check your belts, double check your connectors, and you are done. This is, let's say, an hour and a half job. It's not that bad to do, really. It's not that cold outside. Get it done now. Again, if you're driving a JDM car that's imported, Subaru, whether it's an Impreza, a Legacy, you know, anything like that, WRX, Forester, just like this one is, get that fuel line changed out. Save yourself some grief later on when it's really cold outside. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Leave some comments. I'll answer them all as usual. Cheers. Okay, there we go. It's running. Check for leaks. Make sure that there is none. Make some adjustments to the belts and gasket. Everything looks good. Take a look down inside. No leaks. Everything's dry. Now, just before you start it, what you want to do is cycle the key a couple of times. Prime the system. Turn the key on. Don't start the vehicle. Shut the key off. Wait a couple moments. Turn the key back on. Listen for your pump to prime a few times. Fill the lines back up. Or else you could get an engine code if you just go to start it right away, because there's no fuel there yet because some is drained out. So check your gauges as usual. This one's fine. Yeah, it's 5-speed. Yeah, we're driving it this winter. Yeah, we got snow tires on. We're having fun with this thing already. Thanks for watching again. Thanks for subscribing. Leave some comments. Subaru.